Okay, we're live. We're live. Hey, everyone. Leave it to YouTube. We love YouTube so much for letting us stream live, but sometimes it can be a little wonky. But we're here now. We're live. Good to have you here. Welcome to Office Hours. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Giving a shout out to all of my friends over on LinkedIn who are joining me here today. So glad to have you stopping by. So for those of you that aren't familiar, this is Office Hours. This is where we answer your questions in real time. So any career question you have, job search, career, whatever you want to talk about today, all you have to do is put the word question first in all caps and then ask your question after that in the chat. That way we can pick it out of all of the chatter because there's usually a lot of conversation going on over here. So feel free to post. I'm going to give a shout out to Todd, Anna, Omar, Christina, B12. We got lots of people starting to show up. Thank you so much for coming by. I always love it when you guys tell me what part of the world you're from. We have people all over the world chiming in here, which I think is fantastic. So we love to hear where you're from. So give your country, your city, your state a shout out as well. And don't be shy. Again, ask those questions. Just make sure you put that word question in all caps, okay? All right, so I'm going to take a question from Christina S. And Christina S says, do you have any tips for interviewing with the federal government? So actually, Christina, I'm going to suggest that you do a little internet search. There are several websites out there now that are starting to coach people through the federal and government job interview process. So make sure that you go search on those. You'd be amazed at the tips that you can find out there. Here's what we do know, is that it's a very complex process that you need to get through. And then it's going to help you greatly if you can talk to people who have been successful in navigating that process, because you're going to find out about some of the clearances that you need or some of the criteria that you need to even start to pass through certain levels. It's very, very competitive, like any job, right? It's a coveted position to get into the government. And so they have a lot of checks and balances. And that's why I would suggest that. I don't think that I could do it justice, whereas these sites and these resources that specialize in that can help you greatly. But the single best piece of advice I can give is for you to talk to 2 or 3 people who have been through that. So I'd go look them up on LinkedIn, people who hold the job title that is similar to the type of job title you're applying to. Ask them to connect with you on LinkedIn, see if they would talk to you a little bit and give you some insider tips. They've probably got some advice of some sites that you can go to as well. But that's going to be your best bet. Talking to individuals who have been successful in the hiring process is always one of the greatest things that you can do when you're trying to get any job, especially something like a position in the federal government. Okay? All right, good luck with that. So let's see here. I've got a question, shout out from Todd. Todd says, how should we think about employers when we've submitted our CV through a reference, of course, but see they've reposted the job with new requirements multiple times? Oh gosh, I love this question. We see this all the time. So here's what happens. So a company posts a job requirement. They get a bunch of applications in, and then they realize that they forgot to ask for a few things, or that they actually think they need something different. So based on all those resumes they reviewed, they say, well, let's repost it again and get different types of resumes with different types of qualifications. They do that again and realize, oh my gosh, yet again, we need something different. Maybe in the course of all that, they've even interviewed a few people that they thought based on paper looked like the right fit for the job, and they didn't turn out to be. Through that interview, they decided they needed something else. This is super, super common. It's not any different than any of us when we're deciding to buy. Let's say we decide to buy a house. We decide what we need in a house. We go see a house and we go, that's not what I wanted. And we add a whole new list of requirements that we go see that that's not what I wanted. And we change our minds. We look pretty wishy-washy. But in reality, it's a very expensive purchase for us, so we need to get it right. Well, you're a very expensive purchase, Todd, and everybody else out there. And those employers want to get it right. And so that's why you see those iterations constantly of those. Now, my advice to you is to take that person that referred you and ask them if they would be willing to introduce you to somebody in the organization to do an informational interview. You're not going to ask them for a job. You're not going to ask them to try to push your application through for this. You just realize that in order to get hired by this company, you need to better understand what it would take to get hired, what they look for, and you'd love to talk to somebody in the organization about that. This is going to be really important because you've got to start to establish your credibility with people who work there. That person, you have a great conversation with them. At the end, you say, you know, is there someone else in the organization do you think that you wouldn't mind introducing me to where I could have a similar conversation? Again, the more I can learn from you all, the better prepared I'll be when the right job is posted. And then I can really try to stand out in the application process. Once again, not asking people to get you a job, asking for their insight since they've been successful in landing the job. It's a very different scenario. But what this does is help you start to build your credibility beyond that one person that's referred you. And this is how you can, in time, get them to even say, well, let me have you talk to the hiring manager, or let me pass your information down. This time, though, instead of just saying, here's Todd's info, they're going to say, here's Todd's info. I actually spent some time with him. He's a cool guy. And so did Mary Jo, and she thought he was pretty cool too. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting yourself really in the door, and the person's willing to look at you, even though maybe on paper, you're not exactly a fit. You know, folks, this is something we talk about extensively over at WorkItDaily. So inside our private community, we have this very, real conversations with people about, look, you're never going to be the perfect fit for that employer. The only way that they're going to be able to start to see you as the right person is if they get to know you, your personality and your aptitude, which then makes them go, okay, so what if he or she doesn't have all the experience in the world? We like them. They're part of our tribe. This is why you have to go around this online process, because when you submit stuff online, what are they basing it on? Experience only. And if you don't look perfect, you get tossed. But if they were to meet you and get to know you, and maybe even somebody else meets you and says, hey, he or she's worth talking to, now you're changing the game. Now you're able to get access to those opportunities that maybe you're not a perfect fit for, or they don't see you yet as a perfect fit for. This is how job search gets done today, especially if you want to work in certain places, okay? So you've got to be thinking about that strategy. So Todd, I hope that helped, but you definitely got to work around that process and get those connections in play. All right. Wow, great seeing you all here today. Shout out to Mary and Dan and Mike. Dan says, I'm stuck trying to get networking meetings. What's the best way to choose people to network with, and how would you go about asking them to meet? Okay, great question. So a couple things that have really, really worked. Well, one in particular that I think I'll share with you today, Dan, is this idea of writing an article. So let's say there's a certain problem that you solve, certain specialty that you have in your work, in your industry, okay? One of the best things that you can do is write an article. We all have LinkedIn accounts. We can all post an article on LinkedIn about the best way to solve that problem. Maybe it's the best technology or the best tips or something like that. One of the things that you could do is make a list of, say, 10 people that you really admire, that you think are doing great things in the space, and reach out to them and say, I'm writing an article about this subject. You're on my list of one of the 10 people that I think are doing really innovative stuff in this area. I would love to get a quote from you. Can we have a cup of coffee, or we get a little bit of time on the phone? I'd like to get your perspective on this situation and what's worked for you in the past and some tips so I can quote you in this. And literally do that. Everyone here should do that at least once in your life, because automatically they're going to want to talk to you, because who doesn't want to get quoted in something as a subject matter expert? You're going to have this really awesome conversation about work, and you're going to get to know them. And then when it's all done, when you put this article together and you post it, you get to send it to each one of them and say, thank you so much for your contribution. Here it is. Would love if you circulated it. And now they get to see what you're like. They get to see your own 2 cents on it, how you pull that information together. This is how you can leave a really strong impression. We talk a lot about personal branding, because it's the new normal. You are a business of one, and every job is temporary. You have to market your business of one. Every business that survives today has a marketing strategy. Personal branding has to be your marketing strategy. This is one way that you could build your personal brand, by reaching out to those people and saying, I see you as an expert. I want to get your take, and I want to share your expertise with the world. And then sharing that within your own feed. Now, by default, you're aligning yourself with these amazing experts, because you're pulling that information together. We've all seen these kinds of lists before that people put together of top people to follow, or 10 tips for this. They call them listicles. We can all create a listicle and leverage our network in order to write that piece and share it with the world. And it's one of my favorite ways, Dan, to get that whole networking process going. Okay, so good luck with that. I hope that helps. Mike Maz. Hey, Mike. Mike says, does it hurt to reach out to your potential boss on LinkedIn and send him a brief message? So when you say potential, I don't know if that means you've been gotten the job and you're going to be starting soon, or you're in the interview stages, or maybe you just saw there was a job posting. So here's the thing. If this is somebody that you'd like to work for someday, My advice and the way we would have you do it at WorkItDaily is have you write for something called a disruptive cover letter. So disruptive cover letter is that story of how you feel connected to the mission of the business, what they do to their customers, to the work. It just shows how you're a part of their tribe. And it's a really compelling way to get them at hello and get them to understand that you are a fit for their organization, right? Instead of saying, I'm this and I'm that, and I've got this experience and I'm great, you're saying, here's how I feel deeply connected to the work that you do and why I would be internally motivated to crush a job for you. That's what you're saying with this disruptive cover letter. I would get that prepared along with an updated resume. I would ask this person to connect on LinkedIn. Connect, not an in-mail. I would say, hey, came across your profile while researching the company. Really impressed with your background. Can we connect? Once you get them to connect, now you're going to get their email. You can PDF your disruptive cover letter and your resume, and then you can send it to them and say, you know, I really aspire to work for an organization and for someone like you someday. You know, I saw that you have positions in this area. Here's a story of why I feel really connected to your company and would love to earn an opportunity to interview with you, right? And then you go right for it that way. I think you have to do more than just kind of reach out to the person. You have to have a strategy, which you're going to hear me talk about till I'm blue in the face, till I'm as blue as my sweater today, about strategy, folks. If you are a job seeker today, you can be an ignorant job seeker and, you know, just apply online and wonder why nobody's calling you and why you get really crummy jobs. Or you can be a savvy and sophisticated job seeker who invests time and energy in building a proactive strategy to go after and get what they want. Two different types of job seekers out there. The sort of reactive, or I call lazy job seeker, and the proactive, sophisticated job seeker. That's all about the strategy. What I just described to you is a strategy. And not everybody knows those strategies. So I've got to encourage you that you really want to make sure that you're making the right moves and that you know what to do and that you're being really strategic when you're reaching out to people, especially potential bosses. So I'm glad you asked that question. I hope that information helped. But above all else, folks, strategy. The better your strategy, the better the job opportunities you're going to get. All right. Ozma, how are you? Ozma says, I hope I'm saying that right. I have made the perfect CV and applied online to many job portals. However, as you said, only 3% applicants contacted. Yes. Please help me with other sources. So first of all, Ozma, there's no such thing as a perfect CV. Never, ever. Just ask any recruiter. You can create a CV and 10 recruiters will tell you what's wrong with it. So there's no such thing. And you're wasting your time applying online. This is what I mean about the lazy job seeker. And I know you're not a lazy person, and I know none of you are. You wouldn't be here hanging out trying to get answers, right? You're better than that. And what I'm here to tell you is that you've got to put more effort into this job search. You want to be paid thousands of dollars. You're a business of one selling your services. You have got to build a strategy that is reflective of how awesome your business of one is. You've got to do it. And so that CV isn't enough. It is a targeted strategy to connect with the places that you want to work and have a branded strategy so they can get to know you and trust you and want to hire you. And that's how you do it. There's just no easy way around this, folks. We have been fooled or tricked into thinking that all this fabulous technology that we have access to is supposed to make it easier to find a job. It's not easier. It's just different. And in some ways, I'd say it's harder because this online thing has created this barrier that allows employers to shut us out a heck of a lot more. It's actually harder in that respect. So don't be fooled for a second. You still need to put a lot of effort in, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, every day inside WorkItDaily, it's somebody just asked me the most rewarding part of my job. And it is absolutely the notifications I get inside our private Slack community when somebody announces to the thousands of other members they just got their dream job. And I say that because they literally say, I just got my dream job. And the way you define a dream job is a job that you chose. You identified it, you went after it, and you wanted it. And that can happen for everyone out there if they have a job search strategy and a personal brand, and they really see it as an investment. I want big bucks. I want the dream job. Then I got to put in the energy and the strategy. So Ozma, that's my advice to you. You've got to get out there and create more opportunities for yourself by creating a stronger strategy. Let's see. We've got Question. Remember to put question in front of it, folks, or I can't see it here. Mark Holloway, if your resume reads like a jack of all trades, do you suggest having multiple versions that key in a specific job, or do some real source searching and decide what you want to be? So it's a little bit of both, actually. Mark, thanks for that question. So you really should have a sense of what problem you want to solve or pain you want to alleviate for an employer, because today we all actually need to be Jack and Jill of all trades. Companies need us to be able to do lots of different things. But when it comes to hiring, they're hiring you to alleviate a pain and solve a problem. And that's going to require a specialty. The person that can alleviate that pain the best is the one they're going to hire, that they feel the most trust with. Okay. So there is a need to localize that resume. Now, the technique that we teach at WorkItDaily, so we have a tutorial that you go through. And what we show you is that the top fold of the resume, which is the first thing a recruiter sees, that's the section you customize job per job so that you absolutely tightly match to the job you're applying to. The bottom 2/3 of the resume never change and don't need to change because it's universal information that the recruiter's going to need to see no matter what. But the top can be adjusted based on what you're going after. And that's really all that should change. So you do adapt it, but you adapt that part so that the first impression is them going, oh, check, 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 check. This person has the basic skills. Let's keep reading. But the bigger answer to your question is yes, you need to focus in on the pain that you alleviate, the problem that you solve, and get known for that. And the more known for that, the easier it gets for you to get job opportunities. I can't stress this enough. I'm amazed at the number of people that don't realize how much you have to brand yourself as the aspirin, right? You got to show them how you alleviate the pain. They're not going to pay you to do a job just because they like you. They're going to pay you to do a job because you're going to make their lives easier. And the more you can use verbiage and prove that to them, the better. So that part is what you're going to have to focus in on in order to be more effective. And then, of course, adjust the top fold of that resume. If you're using our template, that's pretty easy to do. Okay? Great questions. Let's see. Lisa says, is it okay to reach out to a company after interviewing once, turn down second interview because salary was too low? They are interviewing again at a more appropriate salary for the position. Heck yeah, Lisa, absolutely. Hopefully you left it on good terms with them when you turned down the second interview. I would get right back in touch with them and say, hey, I saw that you're interviewing again and it looks like the salary range has changed. I would love to chat with you. That was literally the only reason I said no to a second interview. And I've thought about you all ever since. Really thought about you. Love the idea of working for you. Is there any chance I could have a shot at that interview now? Most definitely. Put it out there. You know, one of the things that people often say is, oh, I don't want to look too needy or too desperate or too anxious because then they're going to lowball me and then they're going to have the upper hand. It's not how it works, folks. They want to see that you're super excited to do the job and capable of doing the job. You don't have to get crazy on them. But in a situation like this, Lisa definitely has to go back and say, I couldn't stop thinking about you. The only thing holding me back was the salary. And now I see you've changed the salary. Any chance I can interview now? That's going to be music to their ears. That's going to be what they want to hear. So Lisa, definitely go for it. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. It's going really fast and furious here. Fabian. Hope I'm saying that right. How do I ask for an offer letter extension if I'm currently waiting to hear back from another company I interviewed with? You don't. Oh, please. I'm glad you asked this question. Do not ask for an offer letter extension. That will result in an offer letter rescinded. True story. I've told this story before. Had a client inside WorkItDaily, our platform. He was an executive. He was interviewing 2 places. One place called him up and offered him a job. And he said to them, against my advice, because I told him not to do this, he said, I like you guys a lot, but I am waiting to hear from this other opportunity that I think is a better fit. I hope you can understand, but I should hear from them in the next couple days. Can I just wait and then make the decision? And on the phone, they said, sure, of course, no problem. And the next morning he woke up and in his email inbox was the rescinded offer. We take it back. We're going to pass. We're going to move in another direction. No employer wants to hear that they're second choice. And the moment you ask for an extension, that is a big red warning signal. They're not stupid. They know that that means they're second choice. And that's when they're going to pull the offer. So you do not do that. You accept the offer and then you continue your hiring process. And if you get the job with the other company, then you're in the tough but good to have dilemma of having 2 jobs And you either take that one and have to back out of the other and explain, I'm sorry, this was unexpected, but this job was a better fit. And you'll probably burn a bridge. Or, hey, it's not good enough. I'm going to stick with the job that I have. But either way, you're covered. Right now, you ask for that extension, you could ruin it and not have a job at all. And I've seen that happen way too many times. Folks, I know this is hard. I know that we all just want to be completely transparent and tell them exactly what's going on. But you can't in this situation because you don't know how things are going to unfold. So right now, you accept that offer, you go with it, but you continue your other process and you deal with what comes up when it comes up. Okay? Please, please don't make the mistake. I don't want you to lose the job offer that you have in the hand because you're waiting on one that you don't have yet. Okay? All right. Let's see. Adil says, how to make an application for new graduate position with limited experience. Yeah. So whenever you have limited experience, what you lack for an experience, you're going to make up for an enthusiasm. You need to play something I call informational interview bingo. And that is you need to take a card, 5 across, 5 down, 25, and start chipping away at meeting people that work at the companies you want to work for. What you want to target are people who were recent graduates like yourself in the last 3 years. People who graduated from the same school as you, are in the similar job, or had the similar entry-level job that you would like to go after. You need to target the heck out of these people and have conversations with them and say, look, I know you were in my situation just a few years ago and you were successful at getting hired. Tell me what you did to get hired. What did it take to stand out? Do you have any advice? Do you have any tips? And they're going to share those with you and you're going to learn a lot. But in that bingo, and this is why I said 25 people, in that time as you go through it, if you do 25, somewhere in there, 5, 10, maybe all of them are going to say, I really like this guy or this gal. And I'm going to refer them to my boss because there's an entry-level position coming up. This is how you break yourself in when you have no network. When you have no network, you've got to create one. And the people you need to be networking with are the people that are just a few years ahead of you who have been in your shoes. Okay. So that is my strategy for you because you can't just make an application and send it in. It's too easy for them to disqualify you for lack of experience. You need to do more than that. This keeps going back to what I keep harping on, everyone, about having a better strategy for your job search. Okay. And doing more. The more you put in, the more you get out. All right. So I'm going to stop here for a really quick second before I keep taking all these great questions and remind you all that this Live Office Hours is sponsored by our company, WorkItDaily. Now, I'm amazed at how many people that don't understand what we are and what we do. So I'm just going to explain it really quickly. So WorkItDaily is a secure and private online career coaching community. When you join us, not only do we have an incredible set of video tutorials to help you, online classes to help you plan this job search I've been talking about, fix your resume, fix your cover letter, fix your LinkedIn profile, do your interview prep, deal with salary negotiation, all these different things. But you work with myself and a team of career coaches here on those tools. So you have a place to feel secure. So if you're like, gee, I don't know if my LinkedIn profile looks right, or if my resume is right, or I don't know how to respond to this person, or I don't know how to reach out. Not only do our tutorials teach you that, our classes, but then you give us those things. We look at them for you and we say, yeah, that's right, or no, that's wrong. You better fix that. You work with career coaches and all your other fellow community members. But again, you're inside this private, safe, secure online community where you can really talk about what you're dealing with, where you can get the answers that you're looking for, and where you can be motivated, moved on. So many people, I'm amazed, don't get this. If you have a medical problem, a health problem, a legal problem, a finance problem, you go to professionals. But when you have a career problem, who do you go to? Friends, family? Are they the professionals? And on top of that, a lot of times your friends and family aren't really in the best position to give you advice. And I always hear from people that they're sometimes depressed when they're around friends and family, that people aren't supporting them in their job search or their career development. So that's why you join a private, secure community like WorkItDaily that is staffed by experts who are trained and can give you the right answers and the right support, okay? And unlike any place else, we are the only place doing this right now. We are the #1 online career coaching platform because we're the only one. It is super affordable. It's a monthly subscription. There's no setup fee. You can cancel at any time. And because you took office hours today, because you're watching, in that little chat, my team is going to give you a discount code. And that's going to get you $10 off a month on our subscription. So literally, $10 off a month for less than $1 a day. Just to give you an idea, you can be working with a team of top career experts and with a community of like-minded professionals crushing your career dreams and making them happen. You can go after your goals. Okay. So I don't understand why everybody doesn't join. And someday I think everybody will. But if you're someone that's been struggling, if you're here today asking questions and struggling, wouldn't you like to get the answers whenever you need them? That's what we do at Work It Daily. Okay. All right. So enough about that. I'm going to keep spreading the message until people understand Work It Daily is the place for you to be. It absolutely is. If you want to get ahead in your career, you come join us. Let's start working. All right. All right. Back to the questions. Here we go. Is it advisable to walk into a firm and ask them if I can volunteer with them? If so, how do I sell myself to get that position? I don't think you should walk in to an organization. If it's a retail establishment, maybe you could go in and talk to them. But most organizations, if they're not retail and have a storefront, don't want you just waltzing in and doing that. You have to follow the approach that I've been talking about here, which is identifying key players at the organization, asking them to connect on a platform like LinkedIn, asking if you can speak to them, and then pitching the idea that you would like to intern for them and the value that you would bring. Because it's going to be really easy for them to say, oh, we don't have interns, or, we've never had interns before. And you can say, great, I'd love to be the first one. I would love to make it painless for you to have an intern because I would really love this experience. So you're going to have to sell them on that. And you have to do that in a step-by-step process. Connect with them, talk to them, get to know them, explore this idea of an internship, and get them sold on that. That's going to take multiple steps. You can't just walk into a building and sell them on that. That's going to feel a little too intrusive, okay? But you can do it. You can do it if you start to follow those steps for sure. Let's see. Question from, this is going so fast, folks. Marie Lilly. I was turned down for a position at a company I'd like to work for. They already view me as a not good fit. How do I change that perception when applying to future jobs with the company? Okay, great question again. And you're going to find me giving a lot of the same answers. So how do we change anybody's perception of us, folks? We do that via interaction. We need to be able to have some interactions with them that get them to look at us differently. So that's not going to happen by you applying online anymore. They've already got it in your system that you're not eligible or not a good fit. You need that changed, and you need that through existing employees. They're going to trust people that work for the company. So if you can meet with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or as many people as you can get to know over time, get them to know you and trust you. Then when it comes time, you see another job that's open, not only are you going to be able to write a really awesome disruptive cover letter that gets them at hello, that says, in meeting these 5 people in your organization, here's the aha moments I've had and why I'm so passionate about your company. It's also going to say, I've met 5 people. They're going to talk to those people and they're going to say, yeah, she's okay. You actually should definitely have her in for an interview. That is the only way we change perception. And it can be changed. I've seen it happen many, many times, but it takes time. It's not a quick thing. And I'm going to go back to that once again, folks. If this is a dream job, if this is a company that you admire, you've got to be willing to put skin in the game. You've got to be willing to be patient. You've got to be willing to meet lots of people. You've got to be willing to stick with it, right? That's what's going to happen. It's not easy. You don't give up on the first try. You stay with it. You build your relationships so that when that next job comes available, there are that many more people in your court, okay? You can do this, though, for sure. Let's see. Keith Marone is asking, do you have any recommendations for a design professional switching careers? So honestly, for all career switchers, career change is such a hot topic. I wrote an article about this yesterday on Inc. for people over the age of 50, but I'll be honest with you, the advice applies whether you're 50 or whether you're 20 or anywhere in between. When you change careers, what they see is what you've done up to this point. So that's what we call your career story or your personal brand. And if the personal brand is you are a design professional, then they're going to pigeonhole you in that. But you're saying to yourself, well, I can't lie. I can't make up that I wasn't this. No, you can't. But you can change the narrative, which is show them how to connect the dots and explain why you are going from this job to this job. Because you didn't just wake up someday and say, oh, I just feel like doing this now. There's a lot more to it than that. None of us take career change lightly. And so the more that you can share through your personal brand about why you're passionate about this new career path, what you've done, what have been the aha moments, how you're sure this is the right thing for you, what you've done to prepare yourself to be in this new career, and why you are 100% committed to it. That has to come through. That's not going to come through in a resume, right? It's not going to come through in a LinkedIn profile. So applying online is not an option for you. It is going to come through when you make a list of the top 10 professionals in the industry or the skill set that you want to get into, and you set up informational interviews with them, and you get to tell your story. So you get to ask them questions about how did they get into it? What does it take to be successful? And what do you think somebody like me who's changing careers should do in order to stand out? That's going to enable you to tell your story about why you're doing this, and they're going to get to know you. Now the narrative's changed. Your personal brand to these 10 people is very different than the one that we see on paper. And this is how you get doors opened up for you. And they say, well, even though you don't have the exact experience, the personality, the aptitude, the passion, you've got all the makings of somebody that would do well in this business. You've got the internal motivation. Let me introduce you to the hiring manager. That is how we make career changes today, folks. Again, it's not easy, but it's so worth it. And you've got to have that strategy to do it. So that would be my advice to you, Keith, and you can definitely do it. Let's see. Michael said, laid off in July, third time in 3 years, not a job hopper. References can verify. How can I revamp my resume to support this? Okay, so this is happening more and more, folks. And some of you might be sitting there going, not my problem, but guess what? It could be your problem. I think, Michael, the first thing that you need to think about is why this has happened 3 times. I really want you to get clear on that. Because when you get into an interview situation and they say, what happened? While you're going to say, it's been 3 layoffs out of my control, you always have to take some form of accountability as to what's happened to you. We teach in this class that we have called Fired to Hired. It's for people who have been laid off or fired or unexpectedly leave a job. And how do you explain that and how do you get hired? And the reality is that HR and hiring managers are always going to want you to identify with something you could have done differently. It's called the experience, learn, and grow model. And when you say, looking back, right, even though I couldn't control that these layoffs were going to happen, if I could do this over again, I wouldn't have taken this job. I would have pivoted in this direction. I would have seen 6 months in what was happening, and I would have looked for another job here. You've got to take some ownership of what's happened in this process, because that's going to help them to see that you're not someone who plays the victim. And I want everyone to understand this. If you're ever in a position where you feel something happened that was out of your control, you don't want to say, I was the victim, there was nothing I can do. You want to say, here's what happened, here's what I learned, here's what I would have done differently in the future to make sure it doesn't happen again. That way you're never the victim of your circumstances. And I know that you would never do that, Michael. I just want to make sure that you're thinking along those lines. As far as the resume, you can't really change that. The dates are the dates. Where you can wow them is in the disruptive cover letter. And it's not a cover letter that says, let me explain to you why I've changed jobs 3 times in a row. It's a cover letter that tells that future potential employer how you feel so connected to their brand and their mission that they just fall in love when they read you and they say, oh my gosh, this Michael really gets us. They look at their resume and go, oh, that's interesting. He had 3 different jobs. But he's such an interesting cover letter. Let's give him a call. All right. Now, the one little thing I'm going to tell you can do on the resume is after each job, you're going to have your job title bolded. Then you're going to have where you worked unbolded. And then in parentheses after that, ended due to layoff, something like that. Right. Or laid off. You can just put that in parentheses right after. That will help the recruiter that's reading through it see layoff, layoff, layoff. Okay. 3 layoffs. But again, it's still going to require you to have that great story for a cover letter. It's still going to require you to be able to talk about how you would have done things differently. Again, not be the victim and talk about how I would have done it differently. Maybe you realize at that first job, I was so nervous. I just wanted a new job. I took that second job and I really shouldn't have, something along those lines. But all of us need to take responsibility at any time in our life when something bad, or I always say powerful, because usually those experiences are powerful. When we can learn and grow from them and show we're not a victim, then you're the kind of employee we want to hire. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. Woo. Let's see. Always trying to take questions from different folks. So let's see. Nicole. Hey, Nicole, what if you have experience for 20 years? You went to school and got a degree in that same field. Oh, if you don't have experience and you got it. Nicole, I'm not really sure of your question. I'm going to guess that what you're saying is you have 20 years of experience, but you don't necessarily have the degree in that area. So, you know, the challenge we have is that a lot of companies today use degrees as a way to screen candidates out. And they just say, look, we don't hire if you don't have a degree. That is definitely an issue for people. Again, the answer that I've given so much today, I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing it. Whenever you're running into a bias, whenever you're running into an objection, whenever you're running into a way that you would be automatically disqualified online, you have to go around the process. You have to get around these ATS systems because you're not going to get through. And you've got to talk to somebody on the other side. That way, they can look past and go to bat for you and say, doesn't matter that she doesn't have 20 years of experience, or it doesn't matter that she doesn't have the degree. She's got this 20 years of experience. Whatever the situation is, whatever the negativity is, they can go to bat for you and say, look beyond that. I talked to her. She's worth a discussion. Okay. And this is how it's getting done, folks. And I'm not just making this data up, right? LinkedIn has lots of data to prove this. It's called, they call them like warm or soft connections, however you want to phrase that. So basically it's you know somebody who knows somebody at the company you want to work for, and they introduce you, and that person's a stranger to you and you to them, but you both share that one connection. So you go into it realizing, well, we know the same person, so we're going to be open-minded and have this conversation. You still have to connect with one another. You still have to bond. This person still has to like you enough to want to refer you in. But we see a massive increase in the number of jobs being gotten that way. And it's because companies right now are just looking for some sort of check and balance. Something to say that if that person referred them in, then they're worthy of us taking a closer look. This is why referral is such a big deal. Okay. So you've got to go around that process all the time. It's probably going to be my number one piece of advice here on the platform. Reputation. Question around reputation. How do I tackle the consistent finalist interviews but no offers? I'm concerned peers in my last firm gossiped to the industry that I was difficult to work with. I was the number one producer. Ah, interesting. So, okay. So when you get to the final stages that many times, your references are likely being checked. And sometimes it's just a question of, you'll see companies go with the internal candidate more often because they already know the systems. A lot of times they're saying, no, not today. They're not saying no, not ever. It's just that it came down to two people and the other person was a slightly better fit. So before you go too negative and assume that it has to do with industry people talking about you, you really got to ask yourself, it's just competitive. And did I just lose out a couple times? The one thing I would tell you is this: whenever anyone makes it to the finalist level, when you're one of two folks and you don't get the job, you stay in contact with that company because they're going to eventually hire again. And you want to know something? They don't want to start from scratch. So if you stay in touch with them once a month, you're checking in, how's it going? What are you up to? Keep that relationship going. You never know when that will turn into a job offer. So many people I know that are really successful in their careers, you'll hear them tell stories like, well, when I was in my 20s, I interviewed at like 4 different firms and I got this one job, but I stayed in touch with these 2 firms because I had such a good interview experience with them. And then I ran into the people I interviewed with. And a few years later, they had this new product and I ended up there. And then while I was interviewing, that time, I stayed in touch with these folks. And it just becomes this really easy way to tap into these companies. So here you are with this amazing, track record of being a finalist. Stay in contact. And the reason that's also good is because if there is any kind of whiff of maybe people saying negative things about you, you've got to overcome that. And the way to overcome that is to stay on their radar screen, show your positivity, show your professionalism, show your character, show your dedication, because that's what's going to get them to go, but you know what? She keeps coming back. And she's so nice and she's so knowledgeable. She was the number one producer. Let's give her a try. So you've got to be able to stay in touch with those folks in that respect. The other thing that I would tell you to do is if you're absolutely convinced this might be happening is you should have a good friend, or there are even services that you can hire, do a reference check on you. Have a fictitious reference check done and find out what's being said about you. And that way, if something negative is being said, you'll be able to catch it and then you'll be able to be prepared for it. And by that, I mean, next time you go on an interview and you get to the finalist stage and they ask for your references, you can say, here are my references. I absolutely want you to contact them, but I got to be honest with you. I found out this one reference isn't giving me the most glowing recommendation. It's really troublesome because I was the #1 producer. So that being said, if for some reason you don't get the best recommendation, can I offer you a few other peer recommendations? Because I would really want you to be able to get a full picture and know, hear more than just one side of what they're saying. So that's one of the advantages of having that reference check done, is that if there is something negative, you could go on the offensive. That way, when they do the reference check and sure enough, they hear something negative, they can go back to you and say, yeah, let us talk to a few other people. I've done that with a lot of our clients. And once they do that, problem solved. Okay. So good luck with all of that, but don't give up. Stay in touch with those companies. Like I said, they didn't say no, not ever. They just said no, not today. Wow. All right, folks. Great questions. Let's see. Elena's asking, any advice on handling the exit interview with a current employer? Yeah. So does everybody know what that is? Some employers will sit down with you when you're leaving the company and ask you questions about your experience working there and what could change. I was in HR. I did these exit interviews. I'm very familiar with them. A couple things you need to know. If you think that's not going in your file, it is. If they tell you that it won't be effective in any way, don't believe it. I'm sorry. Human beings are taking these exit interviews, and you have to be extremely careful about what you say. If it's anything negative, you have to be very, very careful. Understand that, the negative stuff you share is likely going to burn a bridge. So if you ever think you might want to work there again someday, I would not go negative. I would not use this as your opportunity to tell them everything that's wrong with your department and with your manager and with the management team, the executive team. I really would just keep it positive. Okay. And if you're going to give any constructive criticism, don't focus on people. Focus on process. It'd be great to see this system get an upgrade or this system improve. Do not focus on people, because the moment you start talking about people, that's where we start to get into emotions and perceptions and different points of view. And you're setting yourself up to not be eligible for rehire. Okay. So that's my advice to everyone. I know some people say, but JT, I just want to be honest with them. I'll probably never work there again. You can do that, but it's a small world. It is a small world, and you never know. You might get to your new employer and realize the grass is not greener and want to go back. And if you said something negative in that exit interview, that's not going to be possible. Okay. All right. Great stuff here today. Okay. Do you have any recommendations for first steps for someone who is not good at networking? Yes. And that is to watch all of our networking videos here on YouTube. So folks, if you don't know already, we've got literally, hundreds of hours of free video here on our YouTube channel. We're trying really hard to become a certified partner of YouTube. You got to get to 100,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to us yet, will you subscribe now, please? Help us out. Tell your friends. But I would watch a bunch of our networking videos. We have playlists on that. That will help you. You'll get information and you'll start to realize, okay, this isn't going to be as scary or hard as I thought. And then obviously you're going to take baby steps. I always tell people, manage your expectations. Don't go to a networking event and set these unrealistic expectations. I'm not leaving here until I talk to 10 people. You're going to psych yourself out. You've got to have baby steps. And certainly the videos that we share there will walk you through the baby steps. I also think there are different types of networking, and easing yourself into that can be really key as well. So, maybe face-to-face is really scary to you, but online is less intimidating to you. So you might want to pursue that first, and in-person networking, maybe you want to start in places that you're more familiar as opposed to going to an event where you know no one. Don't throw yourself in the deep end of the pool and expect to swim. Get some coaching, get comfortable with it. Again, lots of free online resources. And again, if you want some real help with your networking strategy, you can come join us at WorkItDaily. We actually have a networking course that is phenomenal, that talks you through every aspect of your networking process, as well as our team of trained experts that can work with you on crafting your messages and your outreach and all that good stuff. So if you need that kind of help, you can come join us as well. All right. Very good. If you are a job searcher and you've taken a job that is related to your field, but pays the bills, do you put that on your resume? So the answer is yes, but not in your main work experience. You put it in a section called additional experience. This is something that we teach inside the WorkItDaily platform. So our template shows you how to do that. Additional experience is where you put really short-term job assignments, maybe a job that didn't work out, or again, maybe you're working a retail job or a part-time job in order to pay the bills while you're actively looking for a full-time job. You want to put that in the additional experience section. That way they can see that you're working, but it's understood that it's not related to your full-time field. All right. Very good. So Christina says, what is the best wording to ask for a panel of interviewers' business cards? Yeah. I mean, I would be really simple. At the end, they're always going to say, do you have any questions for us? And you're going to ask your questions. And then you're going to say, I'd really love to stay in touch with you all. Would it be okay if I got all of your business cards today? And you say that with a smile, and they'll say, oh, you know, I don't have them. And say, that's okay. Can I grab your email address? Would that be all right? And, you know, or can I connect with you on LinkedIn? You can ask any one of those, but I think you're just very simply saying, I really enjoyed my time today. I would love to stay in touch with all of you. Would it be okay to get your business cards? Now, here's the thing. They know the protocol. They know that what you're going to do is send them all a thank you note, which you should, right? You need to send them a thank you email. So of course they're going to be ready to give you that information because you've asked for it, because that's the protocol. So all of you out there that might be nervous about that, don't be. This is how it works. That's the interview process. So it's okay to ask for that. And they will give it to you. Or you say, or can I get your email addresses? That works just the same, okay? But you should be asking, because that shows that you understand that the next step is for you to send a thank you note. All right. My goodness, and take a quick sip here. Ooh, excellent question. Brooke's got a really interesting question. What do you do when you have two projects for two different people and you can't complete them both in one day? All right. So first thing that you need to sit down and do is an inventory of both projects and figure out how much time it's going to take you to complete each one. That's really important, Brooke. And also make sure that you pad in a little time there, because usually no matter how much we think we can do a project in an hour or 2 hours or 5, it's going to take a little bit more than that. So make sure you bump some hours to that. Then look at it and say, which one can I realistically get done today? Okay. Maybe it's both. Okay. And then you have to say, which one, in my opinion, is more urgent? Which one based on what I know, is more urgent? Okay. So think about that. And then what you want to do is decide which one you can complete and which one you can't based on those. And then you want to go to the individual and say, here's my situation. I've got 2 deadlines. I'm sorry that I got myself stuck in this situation, but I know it's going to take me X hours to complete your project. I only have X hours today. I won't be able to get it done. I will absolutely positively have it to you by this date. Is that okay? Otherwise, I don't know what else to tell you. The one thing I would say going forward, Brooke, which I think you know, is you never wait until this point. You never wait to the last day to realize that you've got 2 projects. And if you were suddenly given 2 projects out of the blue and told they were both due today, well, then you have the right to go back and say to both those parties, look, I got 2 of these on the same day. It is only physically possible to do one. I've got to figure out which one of these is more important for today. And then I can definitely do the next one tomorrow, right? So you've got to get everybody on the same page. So if it's a scenario of they both dropped it in your lap, you got to go back to both of them and say, here's my dilemma. Here's how long I think it's going to take to do both. Here's why I think I should do this one first, this one second. Are we all in agreement? If this is a situation where you've let it go on this long and now you're kind of stuck, again, you've got to do all that research, but you've got to go and say, mea culpa, I'm sorry. Here's the dilemma I'm in. Here's what I propose. I hope this is okay with everyone, right? And then do your best to get that done. So these things happen. It's all about communication and trying to head that off at the pass, okay? But you can do it. Just get organized and get in gear and go communicate so everybody knows, so that really whatever you say or commit to when you have this tough conversation is going to get done. Because what you don't want to have happen is that you fail again. That's really going to set a bad precedent. All right. Let's see. How should I approach a 3rd interview after 2 previous great interviews? Your tips helped with the previous 2. That's great. Okay. So anytime you make it to a 3rd interview, you're getting to what we call the final interview stages. This is where it starts to get more intense, because they have to pick someone, and they've usually narrowed it down to a couple people, and they know they're going to let somebody down. They're going to hire someone and the other person's going to get let down. That's an uncomfortable feeling for a hiring manager. So the questions are going to get more intense. They're going to scrutinize you more. Your goal in those interviews is to stay calm and to keep showing them and quantifying and proving to them that you can alleviate their pain, that you can solve their problems. So you want to be a great listener, and you want to be very focused in your answers about how you can support them. Really pay attention, especially if you're meeting anybody new this late in the game. Anytime you meet new people in the interview process really late in the interviews, those are key decision makers, meaning you're not going to get hired unless they say yes. So you need to pay very close attention to them, what they're looking for in a candidate, how you would make their lives easier if they chose you for the job. All the things that we teach you inside Work It Daily become 10 times more important at this stage. So all I can do is tell you is to keep doing what you're doing and just recognize these are the final key decision makers, and you've got to listen really well and alleviate their pain and make them feel comfortable that you are going to make their lives easier. If you do that, you should be fine. Okay. All right. Sean says, concerning references, if you know none of your former supervisors are at companies, is it okay to give alternative contact numbers and emails for those you did work for in the past? Yes, actually, this happens a lot. So maybe the boss that you worked for at that company is now at another company. You should give their name. Just make sure you explain that they were the boss when you were over at ABC Corp. Totally all right to do. The most important thing to remember is that people do want your managers as much as possible. They're okay with a couple of peer references, but they would much prefer talking to your manager because your manager can grade your work better than a peer can. So don't give them just peer references. Track down your former bosses and give them your bosses. Okay? Yeah. If you make it to the third interview and then never hear anything back from the hiring manager, should you reach out and contact them? Yes. Give it one full business week, Bruce. And at the end of that week, you reach out and say, just wanted to check in and see if there was anything else I could do to further my candidacy. I'm really excited about the opportunity. You know what? I would love to move forward in this process. Okay. So something along those lines. And then as a bonus, I always love to throw in a little value add. So I would find a video or an article that relates to something you talked about in that third interview, you know, something about the business, and say, P.S. I saw this article. It made me think of our conversation. I hope you enjoy. Because then that shows how you're starting to act like a peer, how you collaborate, how you share information. It's just a nice little value add to send in when you do that. All right. Okay, team. So again, just a little recap. If you liked Office Hours today, make sure you follow us. That way you'll always get notification. If you hit the little bell, you'll get notified when we go live. And if you like this kind of help and say, gee, I wish somebody like JT was helping with my career all the time, guess what? That's what we do at Work It Daily. So be sure to check out. We've got a discount code for all office hour attendees. For the people that spend time here, we give you a discount so that you can join our program. You are going to love it. I don't know what else to say other than every day somebody gets inside there and goes, oh my gosh, I didn't understand. This is what it was. This is so cool. I don't know why it took me so long to join Work It Daily. I get this all the time. I tell people, I joke with our team that we're Netflix. You remember Netflix? You didn't really understand what it was, but then eventually so many people were doing Netflix, you just joined. I guarantee you all a year from now, that's what you're going to be saying about Work It Daily. No joke. I guarantee you that people are going to realize, and then just like Netflix, everyone's going to join. So what are you waiting for? Be an early adopter. If you want to be able to be one of the people that said, yeah, I knew Work It Daily before everyone knew, then you should join us, especially now with the discount. Right. Yes. What if you don't want to give your current manager, oh, this looked like an interesting question. Don't give your name for reference because you don't want them to know you're job seeking. That's a great question. So first of all, folks, you really shouldn't give your current manager as a reference. You don't want that happening. What you can do is tell your interviewer, hey, I can't give you my current boss as a reference because he or she doesn't know I'm looking, and that would jeopardize my job. I can give you a peer reference so you can contact some, a peer. And, if you want to do a reference check after you make me an offer and I accept the job, I would give you permission to contact my boss then. Just know that my boss is probably going to be blindsided that I'm leaving. So, I don't know how happy they're going to be about talking with you, but I would do that for you. So that way you're showing them that there's not some reason that you don't want other than you're trying to protect your current job. That's very, very normal, by the way. In HR, I would never expect somebody to let me just call up their existing boss and jeopardize their job. Okay. So that's not a problem at all, but you should have other references pulled together, other past bosses, that sort of thing, ready to go instead. All right. Very good. Mary says, should I follow up with company who put a position on hold to direct them to LinkedIn post relevant to their industry? Sure, absolutely. So what Mary is asking is, hey, there was this company I liked. They put a job on hold. Can I stay in contact with them? Can I share an article with them? Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what you do. Hey, folks, you're a business of one selling your services. You know what really good salespeople do? They stay in touch. They build up a list of potential customers and they nurture those. They call it a sales funnel. You ever heard about the sales funnel? So they contact a lot of different people. And then the people that have some kind of warm response but not ready to buy, they put them into the funnel and they contact them again and they contact them again and they get to know them. Each time they contact them, they get to know them a little bit better and they build a relationship and a relationship. And someday when that person's ready to buy, they remember that salesperson because of the wonderful relationship they had. You are no different. This is how you get a job with your dream employer. You create a bucket list of companies. You learn how to network with those companies. You build up relationships. And then when the right job comes along, boom, that's what happens. And if you don't believe me, join Work It Daily and talk to all these people that are doing this exact process that we teach them. And they will tell you that is how it works. Okay, so definitely do it, Mary. All right, team. So listen, I am going to wrap it up. I went a full hour today. I normally only go 30 minutes. So it's been a full hour with you guys. Great questions as always. Be sure to come back here again next week. We'll be live at 1 p.m. Eastern. And again, if you want help right now with your job search, with your career, come join us. Come join Work It Daily. This discount's good for today. You can get all those questions that I wasn't able to answer. You can get those answered. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was really fun hanging out with you. And we'll see you again next week. Okay. All right. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.